everybody, and welcome back. In this section of the multi-part tutorial for working with Unique Fabrics 2, we're going to be going over customization. In the previous video, we went over the basics of using the included shader presets that came with the pack to easily change an outfit with just a couple clicks. But what if you don't like the colors that I chose for my presets? Or what if whatever you're envisioning that you want to do isn't something that I have a preset that will work for? If you run into problems like that, or if you find yourself wanting to more personalize the patterns to make them your own, then this video is going to be for you. We're going to cover a little bit of information on using the tutorials on YouTube, just really quick. And then we will then be discussing customizing the shader presets, how you can use the included white bases, the pattern masks, and then the transparency maps, and kind of putting everything together from all the videos and just playing. So to get started here, we're first going to start on YouTube. So in this video, I may explain some little things here or there just to remind from previous videos, or if it's something that I didn't exactly cover fully in the previous videos. But for the most part, from here forward, I'm not going to be doing as much explanation. It's going to be mostly just using the pack and exploring it fully. Because of that, I know that there's probably going to be some people that can't remember, like, how did you get to this feature? Or how did she click those multiple materials? Stuff like that. So I wanted to go over how to find things in this tutorial series. So if you go on YouTube, these tutorials are in basically a list, like so, a playlist. And the rest of them, as I add them, will be in here too, and they'll be all in order. If for some reason you can't find the link to this playlist, or you can't find it, if you're on one of the videos, like right now I'm on video 3, the basics. If you're on one of the videos and you go down to the description section and click on show more, and go down, you'll see right under the time headings to watch the playlist for the full series. And then there's the link that will take you to this page. I also wanted to bring up that when you're in a video, most of the time you can also get at the different chapters. There should be a thing kind of over on this side that says like Unique Fabrics 2, and it says AN0314, 404. And if you extend that, you should also be able to get to them. But occasionally I've had it load where for some reason this isn't on there. I don't know why. So just if that isn't, then I put it in every post just in case. The next thing I wanted to discuss was how I segmented this. So if you look right here, you're going to see that you have like section headings. And then underneath that, indented in, is basically subheadings. So I did this in like normal outline form, basically. But so if you want to watch or rewatch an entire section, you would just use the main heading. So these right here. If you want to go to a specific part within that section, then you'd want to click these. And that will take you straight to that part. So if I wanted to get a little refresher on how to view the UV mapping in DAZ Studio, if I click right here, you're going to see I'm going to click this box in a minute here. And I'm going to come down and click this. It automatically jumped you straight to that part of the video. And I try to keep the times pretty close to right at the beginning of that thing. So I cut out as much extra that you don't need as possible. There's only a couple where it might not be right at the thing. Like you might have to wait a couple seconds, but they're pretty close. So that's one way to jump around. Another way is if you're hovered over the video on your computer and you put your mouse over the timeline, you can also skip around this way, and you can skip around in the middle of a section. So like fixing clothing, looking shredded, cut up. I could say, well, I want to go in here a little further. So maybe I want to go to the middle of that section. I can kind of hover, find that section, go to the middle, take a look at where I'm at, decide if I want to rewind. So that's another way to jump through the video. Then the next way is, again, if I hover over the video, there's this title right here and it says view chapter above it. If I click that, it opens up another window, which I'm very excited about because I didn't know this existed till last week. Call me sad, but it's completely new to me. But so if you click on any of the section headings, so it doesn't matter which one you're in, if you click on that, it's automatically going to open this. So if I'm over here in this section and I click on it, it's going to open it and it's going to actually jump to in the list the section that you are on right this minute. But so this is another way to navigate through the video. So again, if I wanted to look at, you know, how to view the UV mapping in DAZ Studio, if I click on here, it's going to jump me to that. So we're back in the same place in the video. If I wanted to look at like looking at the UV mapping and UV Mapper Pro, I could click on that. And in a second here, we're going to be right there. Hopefully that will help to be able to kind of get you moved around in here. So if you need to go back and take a look at things, I put all of these in here like this. And I mean, I really chopped the video up, you know, a minute here, 50 seconds there. I cover a lot of stuff, so the videos go long, but each little section's actually not that bad. It's like a couple minutes. But so there's only some sections that are a little longer. Like obviously this section is, you know, an hour, oh well, like 40 minutes plus 20, yeah, about an hour. But that was more playing around, and even that was sectioned out, so each little section was so many minutes. It's only when I got to the end here that I did like a long play. But as I said, I'm not going to kind of go quite as slow, and I'm not going to necessarily go over every step now. So I just want to make sure that if you run into a problem or you don't remember something from the previous tutorials, which is bound to happen when you're learning a lot of information at once, I wanted you to know that this was all here and that there are easy ways to get to what you need. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to post your questions to me here and I will reply to you, or you can get a hold of me and stuff by me email. I think that might be on my main page. I'm not entirely positive though. I'll have to look at that. Anyways, now that we've gone over YouTube, and I'm sure that was very exciting. Honestly, the chapter heading thing was exciting to me. And yes, if you saw me scroll down, I am a big Animal Crossing fan. I've been playing the new DLC. If anybody else plays, then hopefully you know what that is. If any of you guys are Animal Crossing fans and you're playing the new DLC, let me know, because I'm having a great time and I'd love to talk about it with other people. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into DAZ Studio. So, okay, we are now in. Yay! And the first thing we are going to see is that I have a new dress loaded. Aren't we so happy? So previously, I had kind of used the same dress over and over. That was mostly for continuity's sake, and because if I was going to try to teach like DAZ Studio or parts of DAZ Studio, along with kind of going over parts of the shaders, I didn't want to then add in switching outfits to the confusion. Now that we've mostly covered all of that in a way that hopefully was straightforward enough, I feel like we're good now to play with this on a plethora of different outfits. So for the remainder of these tutorials, you're going to see me flip-flop. I'm going to be doing some stuff on some other clothes for Genesis 8 female. I'm going to be doing some stuff with Genesis 8 male, and we are just going to kind of flip around. So each video from here on out is probably going to have a different outfit at the very least, if not maybe a couple. I also want to point out, just in case you decide to follow along with this tutorial, the outfit is called Flower Power, and that's Flower Power dress. If you load this dress, my material zones or my surfaces here are going to look different than yours. You're only going to have two. Yours are going to say dress and sleeves. Dress is going to make up all of this area, just one big thing, and then sleeves is going to make up this whole area. What I did was created my own material zones for this, or my own surfaces, using a tool within DAZ Studio. For the sake of this tutorial, that's not a big deal because I'm showing something else. But I didn't want you to look and think that there was something wrong with your product or that you were missing something. You are not. I also want you to know that This, like how to separate things out and add materials to areas that aren't there, is something that I'm actually going to teach you how to do in the next video. So now you know what the next video is going to be. But okay, back to this video so I don't have like an out of body experience here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have to load some preset here. And for this, I'm going to use Beaded 09 Brown. So I'm going to load this on the dress. Now, I would advise, like, if you're going to use the white bases, which you'll understand better when to use them a little later. But if you're going to use the white bases, I would load a preset of the texture in question that you're considering using. So if, you know, I might want to use the white base on this texture, I would just load in one of the presets for it real quick. Doesn't matter which one, just could be any one. And I would load that in and use that to work on your scaling, work on your alignment, get everything the way you kind of want it. Because as I mentioned in a previous video, if I go into texture shaded, and we did this when we were doing the repositioning, I said that, you know, the regular shaders, you can use texture shaded. If you use the white bases, though, you have to use filament and you can't see them real well. But if you start with a regular texture and then go to the white base, you can align everything and switch with no problem. But so we're going to play with the, oops, I hit the wrong button. I hate when I do that. Don't play with the tiles, just the offsets, young lady. But we're going to sit here and kind of move this around and see if we can get the design someplace that I like here. And we might mess with the scale just a little bit. So I think I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that we can see a little better when we're working on this. So I'm going to kind of get it lined up in some way that makes sense to me. I didn't really plan this part out, like where exactly I wanted it to go. We're going to say I want the swirl to kind of be around the chest area, I think, because it seems like a good look to me. Kind of like highlights that area. But okay, so we're going to say that this is how I want this to look. This is the positioning of it. I am really liking the texture, but I'm not crazy about some of the coloring. So I like the dress, I like the texture in general, but I'm not feeling some of the colors. So maybe I don't like this kind of dark browny goldish color, or maybe I don't like this blue. The beads are kind of two-toned, so you've got kind of like an off gold or like a light gold thing, or like a pearlescent actually looking to these beads, and then these beads are a little more gold. So you've got basically a base color for the cloth, then 2 colors for the beads, and 2 colors for the pattern. So you've got 5 different colors going here. But say I don't like one of them. That is where the white color bases or the pattern masks come into play. So first we're going to look at just my presets. So just these presets in here and how to modify this. And we're going to kind of ignore the bases for a minute. And to make life easier, I'm actually going to start with white base pattern masks 02, which if you remember from previously uses this metallic flakes weight to add the color. So if I go in there, the first thing I need to know is which texture I'm working on. So if you're not sure, can't remember, just hover over anywhere where you see one of the textures loaded. And okay, it's UF2 Beaded 09. So I know I need to come through the masks here. So if I was up there, come down through until I hit Beaded 09. So okay, now we're at the masks. Now the fastest way to figure out what you're targeting or what you want to do is to double click one of the masks. Now what you'll notice is this mask is basically selecting the entire pattern. Now, just to explain masks a little bit, because masking is one of those concepts that can be difficult to understand, and it's covered a lot, like if you use Adobe Photoshop or like 2D editing apps and you want to kind of merge 2 things or splice 2 things together. So in the case of this, think of a mask as anywhere that's white in this preview. So anywhere that shows white, it's going to turn on your ability to modify it. And every place that is black on that mask, is going to turn off your ability to modify it. So what's in white, you can change the color of. What's in black is going to stay the color that you loaded. So whatever this base color is. So right now, all of this pattern, including the beads, are all in white. So right now it's changing all of this to blue. And if I wanted that and I wanted to pick a different color, I would just come in and pick the color I want and double click and, you know, explore around. And now I've got a different dress already than where we started. I mean, here's where we started, and now we're definitely looking different. Okay, so now that we've played with that, what are these other masks? Well, basically the way I did the masks is they target different areas of the texture. So this one was basically everything except for the base cloth. If you double click on this one, you will see that it's the pattern, but the beads are actually in black on this. So you cannot edit. I've turned off the editing to both the background color and the beading in this version. If you double click mask 3, then this is only doing the beading. And if I hover over, hopefully you can see the preview enough to kind of tell, but that's why only the beading is turning green. This one is going to pick what was the blue section of the pattern. And if I double click here, this one's going to pick the brown section of the pattern. This one is going to do just the one side of the beads and leave everything else. And this is going to do obviously the other side. And then the very last one here is actually going to change the background color, leaving everything else. So hopefully you can kind of see how those masks are working. And we kind of did it close up so you could see well. Now we're going to back off. So in my case, let's say I like the blue, I like everything else, but it's this brown that I'm not crazy about. Well, to get rid of that, that was mask number 5. And I've now changed this texture. From here, I could, you know, copy this, paste it to the sleeves. And I pretty much have a new texture. The only thing I would have to do is I'd have to do something with this trim, and it'd be good if I could just pick one. Trim, 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 trim. So I could say, I think I want maybe the blue, like a dark blue maybe to be the trim. So I want to go to white color bases. So I want to go to the base color. I want to change the main color. So I'm going to come up here out of the masks and go into the blue folder and pick a blue that I think is going to work. And let me click off of here so I can see. And actually that one probably works, but let's see what desaturated a little bit would do. Okay, so as you could see, that fast, I pretty much just drastically changed how this is looking from this to now this. Now, we could call that done and move on with our lives. The other pattern mask folder, this one, has all of the same exact masks, just as targeting a different area, and so it looks a little different. So right now we're playing with this one. There is some settings that I can play with. So there are some utilities in the utility folder. I wanted to go over those. So right now we have a roughness of nada going on here. So if I zoom in, if I put it to 20, I think of it as like percents, but this is 20%. This would be 40%. This would be 50%. Now, what you'll notice is this green area is going to get more and more less metallic. So if we go back to 0, hopefully you can see how shimmery and sparkly and how much kind of like color deviation was in this one, as opposed to this one, which is definitely more dull, and the shine is kind of flattened out or spread out a little bit more. If I go all the way to 100, what you basically have is like a base pattern with no sheen whatsoever on it. So hopefully you can see how you can get different kinds of cloth just by changing just that. The other thing I wanted to kind of bring up was there's a couple things down here. So there's one that says remove mask only. and one that says remove mask is in completely. So if I come down to this and I do remove mask, this one that just says remove a mask, I've now removed the whole mask from this piece. So as you can see, the sleeves and stuff still have the grain. You can see it kind of peeking out over here, but this just reset this whole section. It's all gone. If I hit back, now it's back again. But so that removes everything. This one is if you only wanted to remove the mask for some reason. So if I take that mask away, this is what I would get. I could do that and then play with the roughness to get this to look a little different. And maybe that's what I want. Now, if you get it really dull, it just looks like a very slight pattern going on here. But we're going to put everything back. We're actually going to bring our mask back too. I'm going to back out of all this really fast. Okay. So now we're back to here. Now, the reason I actually included that in, I wasn't really thinking of using it that way, the way I just showed, was if I decided that I wanted like these bands to have kind of a metallic quality, so like trims and stuff like that, I wanted it to be easy to add it instead of you having to come in here and line this up and play with all the settings. So basically what you can do is you can go to the pattern mask folder and pick any mask you like because it's irrelevant. So we're just going to pick this first mask and we're going to double click to put it on here. Now it's going to look a little crazy and we're going to back off for a minute so you can see. So, okay, that added the metallicity and it added that map, which we don't need dots on this trim. So now we're going to go to this utility and you're going to see it's just going to remove this mask here, keeping all the other settings. So when I do that, you'll notice now that some of the little circles and stuff I had in there are gone. From here, I could then play with the roughness, which you'd want to do in this case to kind of calm it back some. And we'll say that maybe this is the happy place. But so I wanted you to be able to use the metallicity with the trim simplistically. So that's why there's two different. One just gets rid of everything you did if you don't like it and you want to start again. The other one gets rid of just the mask if you want to be able to use these settings on a piece. And that is the ins and outs of this particular masking. So for this pattern mask 02 for the metallic flakes weight area. So you just kind of pick a thing, and right now I'm on the trim, so I just changed the trim green, which is not what I wanted. Sometimes you just got to pay attention to what you're doing, young lady. But okay, so like I mentioned, you can just kind of click around, play with the colors, see what you get. When you get something that you like, you're good to go. You could just move on and start working on the trim to things, stuff like that. Now, let's take a look at what the difference is between masks 01 and masks 02. So to do that, I'm going to come back to all this and we're just going to go to utilities. I'm going to clear it all back to the beginning. And now we are going to add that same texture again. So we're going to work with the same texture so we can get a feel for what's going on. So, okay, we'll go back to this texture as it is. So here it is, except for I meant to only do it on the main things like so. I actually could have done that and left the trim the color it was, but oh well. Anyway, so okay, we've reset that back. Now, obviously, when I double clicked on this again, my pattern moved on me just because these presets do have the horizontal and vertical tiles as part of the these presets. So they start you off at 4 and they change the settings on you. But I'm pretty sure we used 3. And I'm pretty sure I could probably retweak this pretty quick now that I know about what I did. Which I lined those up right in there and then brought this up some. It was somewhere about there-ish. But just know if you do that, you might have to reset these things again. But okay, so we've now just completely reset this. I would just take the masks off. I could have done it that way too, but I'm showing like if you clear what happens. So, okay, we reset, we had to realign things. Okay, fine, but we're back to here. So what does pattern mask 01 do? Well, the first thing is instead of loading up here, it's going to load stuff in over here. And when you go into this folder and you open it up, the first thing you're going to notice is something that says Metallicity off. I brought this up in a previous video. You need to do that because the Metallicity will combine basically, and you can't see the colors well. Like this is kind of a balancing act. But so we're just going to turn it off right now so we can see better. We're also going to go back to the original camera where we can see close up. You're going to notice that the entire texture is a lot flatter. So my beads and stuff right now don't have like any metallic look to them whatsoever. They're just kind of more flat. And I can go back to the same mask because all the masks are the same. So they all mask the same way as what we just looked at. We know that mask 5 was targeting the area that we wanted, which was this area. So if I double click now, we have now remasked that off. Only in this case, this is more of a dull look. If I wanted to bring back some of the sheen, I could go into Utilies and I could play with this slider. So I could try like say 50%. Now, the second you start upping that, you're going to get some stuff that will show up here. So as I start clicking and going higher up, you get to a point where you barely can't even see the color that you're overlaying. So most of the time you at least have to go to 75, if not further. But we'll say, you know, from 0 to 50, the color is quite a bit duller. So this is more gray than this is more white. But if I'm doing it by eye, that shouldn't be a factor, really. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try to reproduce the same look that I originally had there. So we'll come in and we'll go to like a bluey green and we'll double click and we'll play with some of the lighter ones. And we'll say that this is what I want. If it still doesn't seem right, you could play with the metallicity some more. So turn it up, turn it down. If you want the fabric to look like a more standard fabric instead of a fancier one, then you could just leave it like this. That it's gonna be that kind of look. But we're gonna say that I want some of the metallicity on it because I still want the beads to have some stuff like that. And this is controlling the metallicity for the entire channel. So I'm going to at least put it on 50% and kind of split my difference here. So, okay, we're to here. We would do the same thing as we did previously. You know, we could go on the trim and we could do something with that real quick and add a color. And I can't remember, what did I do last time? Just like a dark blue. I think I was probably in here and picked a dark blue from here. But okay, so we'll say we'll go in, we'll do the trim again. And oops, what happened? Well, I'm in the pattern masks folder, so I'm in the colors for that. If that happens, it means you're probably in the wrong folder. Now, another thing I would point out is see how we were in this folder. We're on E12. If I switch folders right now without clicking off or clicking anywhere and go to in-betweens in the base colors, I'm in the same exact place as long as I didn't scroll away. So I can actually still find that color even though I was in the wrong. And it would be the same if I come down here. So if I go to the in-betweens down here and I meant to be in this folder, you can see E12 is right here. So just know that if you're working on something and you're accidentally in the wrong folder, if you go to the other ones, you're still in the same place in the list. It's kind of interesting. I don't know why or how that happens, but it does. But okay, so we have now flipped, well, I guess because you're using this bar right here and the colors are the same between all these. So it just automatically lines up. I had to think that through for a minute, but yeah, so if I move this up, then, you know, it'd be lined up somewhere else, but this bar doesn't move between folders, just if you click someplace or scroll it. Does that make sense? But okay, so from here, we could pretty much call this done. Now, what if we want to change two colors? So what if we just want to change the whole pattern on this? Well, then we can start combining what we just learned together. So for this, I am going to re-white base myself, or I'm going to re-wipe out my texture again. And we are actually going to look at a different one. And the first thing I'm going to do is just do something with the trim here. So for right now, I'm just going to go base color. We're just going to pick like a dark gray just to have something on it. And now we're going to play with the dress. I want to make this go a little faster now. So, okay, if I go to the main shaders, I'm going to pick the butterfly one because I really like that one. And I'm going to pick the default, kind of the base one, the black one. Okay, so I have that on there. I'm going to change the scaling, and I think we're going to make the butterfly fairly large. I'm going to move it a little bit here, down further. Silly girl. I'm going to say I'm going to move it to there and then kind of move it down. So it's kind of along the neckline if possible. I think I need to move it a little more back up so it's not kind of laying weird. But we're going to say that we're going to kind of dial it into just about here. Now, it would have been easier if I would have switched my view to texture shaded, then it wouldn't have been all blinky, but I was trying to kind of be quick about it. So, okay, so we have this loaded, and we're going to say we want to play with how this looks. So I'm going to come back in really close so we can see what's going on with these masks. And in this case, maybe I don't like any of this texture. Like, I'm looking at it, I have it lined up, but it just isn't quite, like, not quite what I wanted, not quite looking the way I was hoping it to. And I think I just want to completely redo this with my own kind of color scheme. So how do you do that? And this will also show you how to combine all the masks and everything together, because you can do this process on the white bases, which is what I'm going to show it on, or you can do it on my presets. So in this case, we're going to load the white base for this, and they are actually in this top level, and it's pattern 06, but if you can't remember, just kind of hover. So pattern 06, now I've wiped out all of those textures off of there, and you can see all the details and stuff. All the details are still there, but it basically just gave a basic white base to start from. That's why they're called white recolor bases. So what we are going to do, I decided I wanted the trim a little darker, but so what we're going to do is see about now trying to kind of build this up from scratch. So we've got it positioned, we got all this, but, you know, I think we want to make our own colors. Well, the first place we start is at the top, which is why these are kind of ordered the way they are. So starting at the top, let's see what color we want to pick. We'll say red, and we'll say maybe this red. So, okay, step one is done. And if I back it back off here, you will see that I just colored the whole thing red, and I've got, you know, my trim all going. Everything's fine in the world. I could do some tweaking, but I could call this done technically. Maybe this is how I wanted it to look. And I feel like I might have missed one of the trims when I was doing the trim, oddly. So I'm going to copy and paste because it's sticking out to me and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just the way the light. No, I did have a setting different on that one somehow. Anyways, I knew there was something. But okay, so we're back to the dress stuff again. We could stop here, but that's not what I want to do. So now that I picked the base color, so I picked the main color for my fabric, now I'm going to go to pattern masks 2. Now, when I'd be most likely, me personally, to use pattern masks 02 is when you want to do the outline of things, or when you want the base pattern to be more matte looking or more flat looking, but you want the beading and stuff to be, you know, more metallic. So you'd use this for the base pattern and then this for kind of the beading, or however you want to work that. But so we're going to say, okay, you know, now I want to probably target this outline on the butterfly. So let's pick a color for the outline before we even do the mask. So maybe we'll try like this black. Now I double clicked it. It did add the color, but you'll notice I can't see it. That's because we haven't actually dialed in the mask or put the mask on yet. So now we have to do that. So we got to come down through here. And this was pattern 06. Let me double click on this. And you can see it's in this middle section right now. And it's kind of like an in-between color coming across. Now, because this is the channel that likes to interfere with Metallicity, We probably want to turn that down at least to like 75%. So I think I'll do that. Still leaves a decent sheen here, but takes most of it off here in this case. So, okay, I just did that. Let's look at what the other masks will do. So that's not the area I wanted to target. I wanted the outline. So let's double click the next one. Okay, well, this is in fact the outline. And then if I go to the next one, it's also the outline, but it's actually showing more of the background texture through. So it's like a combination of the outline and the regular texture, kind of going across the whole thing. And then if I double click this last one, now I am mostly selecting this to go over the base texture, but it's also like a combination. So a little bit of the red is still peeking through. So it's like a mixture of this red and black. And like with anything else, if I play with these utilities in here, you know, I'm going to either make the black come forward more or the red come forward more. And the same goes for like if I adjust the overlay strength. So as I turn this up, the black is going to combine more and more and more. But in this case, as I said, we wanted just the outline. So let's go backwards here and get back to where I was. Help me. Okay, so we're on the outline. So I've got that done. I did, however, turn up the metallicity again. So we're gonna knock that back a little bit to 75%. This is kind of my happy space and I'm happy with this. So I am now done with changing the outline. So right now, this dress could be done. It's very pretty with, you know, red dress, black details. I think it actually looks nice, but we're gonna say we want to add in a third color. So if I come in here and go back through to the masks and double click mask 1, that actually was the wings, the internal wings. And so I do believe was 3 had some of it in too, but as you'll see, like that is actually really overpowering the outline. So it's not going to combine as well. So I would definitely be more prone to use like this mask if you're trying to build up the texture. But okay, so we added this mask on. We could come in, as I previously mentioned, and maybe we play with the roughness a little bit to get that to look a little bit different. So it was a little more harsh edged. Like see the really hard shine coming through here and down in here. I just wanted to spread that out just a little bit more. Now that made it a much bigger area, but I think I want it more spread than that. So we're gonna go one more time and that should do it. Now from here, maybe I want to try out orange. Well, there you go. Maybe a little bit lighter orange. Maybe I want it to be a little bit more towards the red orange. So there's that. There's if I go a little lighter, if I down the saturation a little bit, lighter yet, and a little less saturation. But you can see at this point, like I can come in here and kind of change this up just with some simple clicking around. I can get a lot of different colors, a lot of different looks. She could be ready for Christmas with butterflies if she wants to. Or the holiday season, depending. But so you can see how, you know, you can pretty quickly now just build your own texture from scratch. So we started with white. We now have something that looks completely different than what we started with. And we could go on like this. Like I could keep playing. I am going to try to cut myself short though, so this video doesn't run 80 hours. I did want to show how these look kind of gold though. Okay, so now the last thing we want to go over is working with the transparencies. We've kind of played with the different bases. We've looked at the utilities that are in here and kind of went over how those worked. There are some utilities up here that I didn't actually go over, but basically what they do is change this glossy color right here to white instead of the same color as the base color. So if you want something to have a little bit more shininess, like if I do the dress and all that here and switch this, it's going to look different, as you can see. adding kind of different shades of gray versus having it be the red. So that just gives you another little option to work with, but I figure I'd point it out since we didn't actually discuss that. But we're going to go back to kind of the original color or some close. Yeah, that was pretty close. Okay, so we're back to here. Now to play with the transparencies for this, we're just going to look at the sleeves. So if I wanted to add transparency to these sleeves as they are, first, I may want to reposition the sleeves a little bit because where this is sitting on the map isn't working for me. So we're actually probably should have done that previous to this. We're going to move this a little just so we can kind of see more of the butterflies on the sleeves. Might move the offset up or down a little to show a little more. Okay, so we're going to go with that's how I want it to look. And now if I come into transparencies and go down to pattern 06, which is this pattern, the butterfly one, you're going to see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different transparencies here. So I am just going to click through them to kind of give you an idea what they did. So this kind of made everything but kind of this midsection kind of fade. This one actually kept the outline solid and faded the inside a little bit and then the cloth outside the most. This one kept the entire butterfly exactly the same and just fades the cloth. This one I think is similar to that one, but I think the butterfly is a little lighter. So it's still got a little bit of a faded quality, but still fairly visible. And then these ones reverse this. So now the butterfly is transparent and the cloth is what is basically solid. Same with this one. Now, because we have a texture on here, and I do not think these are pure white on there, so the butterflies are not white, they're like an off gray. They're semi see-through. If I wanted them completely gone, there is a way to kind of edit that. And you could kind of use this one if you wanted to actually have that section just be gone. Then there is this one, which is going to look awfully strange. Now, this one is more used for the geoshells, but there are other ways to use it. Like, say I didn't exactly like any of the transparencies. Like, you know, this wasn't quite what I wanted. Like the red is a little too harsh, and I want that red part to be even more transparent. Let me play with the scale here for a second. But say I want this red to be a bit more transparent. I could load that transparency map. So I could load the one that literally only shows the butterflies, and then I could pretty much build my own, and that's the case for any. So if I double click this, I now made that part completely go away, and I've just got the butterflies. If I decide that I want to play with that, that is where you can click on here, and you could go into Layered Image Editor. And if you hit this little plus, that's adding a layer. So we're going to add a layer. Now, right now, the layer is black. And like I said, in the case of this and masking, it is black turns it off or makes it go away, and white makes it come back. If you want it to be kind of a really light cloth, then you'd want to just make it a little gray, not black, because that does this, and not white, because that would be the solid sleeve. So you just want it to have a little bit of gray, so we'll just add some of that in. And then we're going to go to Additive Blend. That's going to combine those two things together. And when I hit accept, I have now made my own very, very light trans map. So the skin is showing through pretty harshly, but there is still like a slight cloth there. And if that wasn't quite right, you can just go back into Layered Image Editor. That's all going to still be there. And you can just make it a little bit darker, hit OK, hit accept, see what this looks like. So that gives you an idea of how you can use these to modify things like the transparency. As I said, I mostly used it for the geoshell, but the transparency maps and masks, the actual masks that are up in here, all those things can be used in pretty much any other channels to control how things look. So by all means, if you get comfortable with this and you feel like experimenting with shaders, play with them. It's a lot of fun. You can find all kinds of things you can do. There is also a way for me to open up a third channel of color, which I'm probably going to add into the next set. And then I might come back and actually update this in the first set with that third option. But for right now, we kind of stopped here because I didn't come up with it till after the pack was done. Like, oh, I could have done this. And I didn't think of it in the first set, so go figure. But I think of more ways to play all the time. But okay, so there's the trans map. Now I could clear the colors out. So I could come through to the pattern mask and go to utilities and do, you know, the remove mask. And so now we took it to the red. So we remove the gold outline. If I go to this utility, remove that mask, now we're to solid red with no differentiation. And then now if I come up here and start playing with the colors, so we're going to go like for black. Now you can see how I can just have like a regular trans mapped version of this butterfly. If I decided I wanted to add colors back in, it's just as simple as turning the masks back on, just how we built this up, and adding whatever colors that you want. And that pretty much covers the gist of kind of using the transparency maps. So what I am going to do now is we are going to click on this whole thing and we are going to clear it all. And I'm going to move to the regular camera. And we are going to look at just kind of doing something straight from scratch. So I am going to play with, I don't know, we'll say this texture because I really like it. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to change the scale probably to like 8x8 maybe. I think I like that. I'll be able to see it better in a minute. Now I could go into filament if I want to really be able to see it decent, and I probably would need to be closer up like so. And now you can see it, you just got to be close and in filament. If I did want to do it that way, as I said, I could just load a preset for this. So I could have came in here and that's this texture. I could have loaded one of these, moved it around, and then did the white base. But okay, so we're going to say I like it how it is, and I didn't need to do any of that. And I could just start building up the dress. So I could decide, I don't know, that I want this to be kind of a magenta-y purple color. So, okay, there's step one. Since we're going with the magentas and purples, while I'm here, I think I will, one, pay attention to this color, which was magenta 14, just in case I need to know it. And I can click all these trims real quick, and we're going to go for like a darker version of that same color. So that's now on for the trim. We're going to go back to the dress and sleeves. Now I could add a transparency map to all of this, but then I'd be breaking YouTube's TOS a little bit. So we're not going to do that, but you could do it if that's what you want to do. But so now we want to add colors to this. So we are going to look at the masks now. So I think I'm just going to pick like a black so I can kind of see the masks on for this. And I want the kind of more dull color to be the pattern, not the beads. So I'm going to want this specific mask. I am going to need to turn down this overlay so we can leave it to there. So now we've got, you know, the main texture part in the black and the base is in the purple. And then we can come to here and target just the gems for this texture, which are right here. And this should be all of them. And double click on that. And now I've selected just that area, and I could come through and I could try, you know, whatever colors my heart desires here. Now I'm going to say, since I was in the land of magenta, maybe I want to stick with magenta and I just want to go for a lighter color. Or maybe I want to check out some of the in-betweens and see if I have one that's more of a pinky, which I think I do towards the end here. There's kind of like roses. So we could try one of those colors and see how that looks. We could go a little darker or a little more saturated. So okay, we're going to say that, you know, this is what I wanted. I may decide, I think I want the base color to be a little darker. Maybe too dark? Or a little lighter? No. Kind of think I like that. Maybe a little more saturated. Okay. Or desaturated rather. So we're going to say that I like this. Now we'll notice that my trim is not really matching anymore. So we'll fix that real fast. Just click on some stuff. We're in this realm. So we're probably going to want to go with this dark color. And I just clicked the wrong stuff. Do not want sleeve 2. Get off there. So we're going to add that now. So that is now fixed and back to where it probably should be. Now I can look at the sleeves and sleeve 2, and we will play with the transparency for this. So I can come back up, look at the trans maps and go, okay, I think I want everything, the beads, everything to be showing. So I can find the one that's pretty much everything and just double click that. And that fast, we just changed this again. Now, I used a purple that I did not pay attention to the second time around, but I'm pretty sure it was right in here somewhere. So let's look and see if this was the right color. I cannot tell because I'm not on the dress. Whoops. Okay, so we're going to go back to the dress here and see if this is the proper color. Now, this is a little darker, so it was, I guess, this one that I was on. Okay, so we're going to come back here. We're going to turn that on, like make sure that that's clicked. Now we could go to a different color and really make this look crazy. We could also adjust the size of this to be, you know, a different scale. So we could go, okay, you know, I think I want this to be like 10 by 10, or maybe I want it to be really patterned, like 16 by 16. But leave the sleeves be bigger. So, okay, we've done that adjustment. Now let's say that this is what we like. I personally would probably still change the color on those beads because I'm still not quite digging on those. So I'm going to go back to mask 2 and look at just that color and see if I don't see one that works better for me. I still want it to be fairly bright, like towards white though. So we're gonna say maybe between here and here somewhere is the sweet spot. But we're gonna go with this lighter one. So we're gonna say that I like all this. Now the purple that I used ended up being from here, and we said what, it was this one? I didn't pay attention again, I'm fired. I think it was this one. Let's go back to dress because that's what I wanted to look at anyways. Okay, not the right one. Not the right one. That is the right one. Okay. So purple 15. I just kind of waited until the numbers lined up with what I knew they were previously. So, okay, now that we've done that and we know that this is the purple I used right here, we could start clicking on accessories now. And we can finish basically texturing this entire thing. So I can just kind of highlight everything like this again. Well, not all of that, just from earring to earring. So I can highlight all this to get this all in here. Make sure that I click on this pennant and then, oops, I hit control, but it just didn't want to do it for me. Sometimes that happens. And so, okay, I'm gonna click on everything. Now I'm gonna press and hold control, click that. Okay, now obviously I don't want all of this. Like I don't really need any of the dress. So I can probably just click off on all of these for right this minute. I do need the headband and probably need the inner and the outer. The flower power necklace, I probably don't want the cord. So I probably wanna like click off of the cord if it will let me. Okay, cord, headband, ring. I do not want the band. Another ring. Got to click on this first to get the band off. Flower power earring left. I'm going to click on this again. I don't want the back. I don't want the bottom. I just want the top. And we're going to do the same with this too. So click off of this, back, blah, 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 top, pendant. We just want flower. So, okay, we now have a bunch of things checked here. And we're going to just double click this preset. And technically, you're not really going to see anything. Now, we have the metallicity turned down and everything else, but we actually need purple 15 base color. So that was the boo-boo that happened there. So now we should see it. And there you go. Now I can come in and, you know, play with this. And this is a case where you would. So if I double clicked to change this, you're going to notice that you get more of a glossiness the more white this goes. So in this case, I probably want these to be fairly, and oops, on the necklace, I clicked the wrong thing. I did not want the cord, I said. But so you can see that pretty quickly just colored all of those pieces. Now I did accidentally pick the cord. So I think I will pick the trim here. Did I pick the trim? Oh, there we go. And I'm going to copy that and paste it to this cord. Okay. Then I'm going to take a look at the pink, because I want to add it to this part. So that pink was in in-betweens, and it was way down here, and it was pretty darn light, I believe right here. So now I've added that, and you can see how quickly I just changed all the accessories, changed the dress, made everything kind of match. I could go, well, you know what? I don't think I want this pendant to be purple. I think I want it to be the pink to kind of contrast with the dress more. I could go through and say, well, you know, I'm not really liking the scale of this. Maybe I want it to be bigger again. How's it look? Like really big? A little too big, probably. I could play with the offset on it. See how that looks. This is really, really large though, so I can't imagine using it in this particular way for this pattern. But we'll say I take it back to 4x4 again, because I liked it better this size. And then from here, I could just keep playing. So I could keep changing colors, and we could just go on to infinity and beyond. But I think this is where we are going to go ahead and stop. So we've, you know, added masks onto this. We've talked about the regular, just flat coloring on a transparency map. So like, you know, if I don't want any of this color information, you can just kind of strip all that out. And that's what some of these clears will do too. Like this one is just going to leave the displacement, the bump, the normals, and the transparency. So if I double click this, I cleared out all the information except for those things. Now I did clear out my scale. So I'd have to, you know, add the scale that I want back in and, you know, see what that scale is that I want. And then from here, I could just, you know, come back in and maybe I want the sleeves to be black. Or I want them to be that really dark purple color, which was, I believe, like right about here. And now that looks a little bit different. Hopefully at this point you can use the shaders, you understand kind of how the white bases are working and when to use them. You understand how to modify one of my pre-existing textures. You can now comfortably play with the trans maps or the cutout opacities as the case may be. I want to go over just one more example of playing with the transparencies on a different outfit, and then we're going to call this a day. So give me 1 second here while I load that. So we're going to go to this scene. And I'm going to pause you for a minute so you don't have to watch. And like magic, we're back and we have a new outfit here going. Now I am going to shut off this poncho for a minute. So I've got an outfit kind of going underneath this. So I'm going to click on the main parts for that. just to give one more example, we're going to kind of mix and match all these things now. So I think I'm going to use this red because I really like these beads. And we're going to play with the scale a little bit to bring it down just a smidge. And I believe that we're going to have two different sizes going in. So this needs to be a little less scaled to match in size. And we're close, but no cigar. That's close. I don't know if this is going to be closer. Let's see. I think the other one was closer. Okay, so right now we've added this preset. We're now going to go onto here and grab all of this trim. And we're going to go to the base colors and just add like a dark red to the trim. Now I could go with some other color in fairness. I could also go for kind of a little bit of an off color, but I think we're going to go full on with the harshest saturation here. So, okay, that quick, we've got this piece pretty much textured. That wasn't any harm. That was fairly simplistic and straightforward. Now we're going to go ahead and turn the poncho back on. And we are going to say that I want to see what that's going to look like black. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to add the color. So we're still in base colors. We're just going to add the black to it. There we go. I am now going to go to transparencies, and I think I'm going to pick a completely different texture, and I'm going to go with like this flowers one here and add that on. Now you'll notice I added it to the cloth and the trim. So if there wasn't trim on this, and I don't remember if there is an actual trim material or not, then this is what you get, which looks like a weird unfinished edge, which wouldn't be very realistic to using transparencies. So we do not want the transparency map on here. Now I can either come down to here and there's a remove and ta-da, it's fixed. Or I could have got at it a different way. Like I could have just went back. I could have just redid it without the transparency real quick. But in this case, just removing the mask was the quicker and easier way. We're going to go a little smaller in scale. I don't know how far yet. We'll see what I feel like doing. Oh, I'm doing it on the trim like a goofball. I'm not going to see nothing happening, right? Okay. Maybe try that on the cloth this time, lady. Oh, now it's going smaller. That's more like it. I originally tried 5. No, we don't want that. Okay, we're going to say I'm going to go by 7 by 7. And as you can see, that fast, this outfit could be officially done. Now, I may say, you know what? I think I want to add some color to the flower part of this. So I could come through and go back to that flower, which happens to be the very last thing in here. And we're going to shoot for maybe this one. So now we've got most of the flower is dark, which obviously that added a lot, just kind of darkening in that and then leaving the vines. But we're going to say that I actually wanted some color. So we're going to come to masks 2. We're going to go to the flower. We're actually going to pick just the outline to work on. Okay, so now we've hit the outline. I am going to go to the golds because I want to try to get sort of a white goldy color, kind of like what's in the bathing suit here. So we're going to try the in-betweens because that's usually a good spot to start. And I'm going to quit flipping through like I'm racing. Slow down. Okay, we need to be in here. And this color looks to be somewhere in like these realms. We will try this. Now you're going to notice it's picking up a ton of shine pretty harshly, and I want it to be more spread across the surface. So this is definitely one of the times where you want to use the roughness, and you can see what that's doing here. Now looking, it seems like I probably want to go a little more saturated. So I think I went here. Might want to try like here. And I think, you know, I'm getting probably closer to these colors. Now, it might actually be a color somewhere in between. I can't I couldn't necessarily do every color. So I may have to, you know, kind of manually move some stuff sometimes and see, like, does that get me closer? Does it get me further? Do I like it better? But we're going to say that I like this. And maybe just to be on the safe side, that was B09. I'm going to click on this texture now on the bottoms and the top. And we are going to go to the masks for B09. Or not for B09, but rather for pattern 3, beaded 03. B09's the color, so I don't forget. And I could actually add that color now, so we will just do that. We'll just add B09 now. We're not going to see anything until I add the mask. But we'll go to the masks and we will go to B09, which was up here. And now we can kind of make this match this better. So we could hit all the beads with this, like so. And you can see all the beads are now that gold. We could target just certain beads to be that brighter gold, but you'll see that now it is tying in with this gold. And I could keep experimenting, like which section do I like this on? And hey, maybe I want the entire bathing suit to be gold and not to touch the beads at all. And I could do that too. And then I could come into utilities and adjust the roughness a little bit to scale that back some. And technically, you know, I could be done with this if this is what I like or if this is what I wanted. I could invert it back. So I could say, I don't think I want the whole thing to be gold like that. Maybe I do want the whole pattern though. Or no, maybe I just want like all the beads. Now that was literally, I don't know, however many minutes that took. It was pretty short though. And we just kind of went through and made an entire texture here pretty darn quick. And that was with customizing it. That's what I said. Like once you get used to it and get used to kind of playing, it does actually move really fast. Whoops, I don't have this selected. I was trying to play with this. But you can see how, you know, you can keep adjusting and fine tuning and it's pretty quick and pretty easy and keep getting different looks. I can, you know, go back to the pattern mask 02 and go to like the reds. And I think we said the trim was up in here. I could change that to the dark red if I wanted. Now, you're not going to be able to see it real well because it's such a dark color. If I went a little bit lighter on this, like into here, you'll be able to see it much better. And now that we've picked a different color, we may have to adjust this roughness a bit more. And you can see like adding more shine in is going to help in this case. But so we could say like maybe roughness 40 is where I want this to be. And we could see how this looks. And just at this point, you can kind of do whatever you want. So if you have any questions, I really wish I quit clicking off and forgetting I did, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If there's anything that I went over that maybe wasn't as clear or that you're having trouble with, please let me know and I will be happy to answer. In the next part, we are going to be going over making material zones. So like in something like that flower power outfit, if it doesn't have kind of the surfaces that you want, like say you need a trim because you want to use the transparency, but it doesn't have a trim surface like this. I am going to show you how you can use the tools in DAZ Studio to add your own surfaces so that you can modify more precisely how you want the stuff to look. So that will be the next video. And hopefully this tutorial explained a good portion. And at this point, if you didn't watch any of the other videos, you'd be good to go. Like this is the main meat and potatoes. This was kind of the putting it all together. This one in the previous video is why they were so long, but they were the main descriptions, like the main information. So from here on out, it's going to be now discussing some of the extras. So we'll be going over the the plating and the geoshells and the adding in material zones. So that's going to be the things that are going to come in the next videos. So if you're interested in that stuff, then stay tuned. I also am debating on whether or not I'm going to add like a merchant resource video. So like kind of using this in Substance Painter or maybe Photoshop or possibly both. But if you're just wanting to use the shaders on clothing, you are now ready to go. As always, thank you for listening and thank you for hanging in there with me, and I will see you next video. Bye!